Hi sweet friends, I'm Mary from marysnest.com, where I share traditional recipes for making nutrient-dense foods using simple ingredients. And today I want to share with you some news from the nest. Today I wanted to share with you some things I'm so excited about. First of all, I wanted to show you this apron. I don't know if you can see everything. I'm going to try to pick it up a little. It's got a beautiful hem and lovely, lovely pockets here in the front. And it was made by Heidi from Rain Country Homestead. And I bought it from her on her Etsy shop that she has. I think the Etsy shop, I'll link it below. I think it's the same name, Rain Country Homestead, but I have to check on that. But it is so beautiful, and I just had to share with you about it. I absolutely love it. And I've had it for a couple of weeks, maybe a month now, and I liked it so much I ordered another one from her that came today, and I'll definitely share that with you next time. But in the interim, I wanted you to see the one that I do have and that I'm wearing today. And it really makes you feel like a pioneer woman because it's beautifully long and she's so generous with the fabric, and the stitching is just magnificent, and it's wonderful to have something that's handmade and so beautiful like this. So I wanted to just tell you all about that. Also, I wanted to show you, because I've been posting this on Facebook and I think Instagram too, another thing to do with Heidi that I learned from her about making vinegar from fruit scraps. Now, I've known about making vinegar from apples, you know, to make apple cider vinegar, but I never really thought about that you could make it from other things. And I wanted to show you this one. I've since strained this. Before, if you've seen my Facebook page or my Instagram, there's you can see it where I have all the fruit tops in it. This was just strawberry tops, just the green and the little bit of red part that I had cut off. And after a few weeks, it got to like 3.0 pH level, and Heidi said, oh, that's very, you know, acidic, and was a good vinegar level. And so I strained it out, and I've just been having it sit here on the counter. And I wanted to share that the smell is so magnificent. You definitely get the vinegar smell, but you also get a little bit of the fruit smell. So it's got a little bit of a strawberry smell, and I think it's going to be really fun to use this to make salad dressing. Because I know some of you were asking me, well, what are you going to do with it? And I think this one I'm definitely going to use for salad dressing, because I think it's just going to be luscious, especially if you put strawberries in the salad too. So that's that. And I learned from Heidi not to worry. When you make this, it looks like mold might be forming on top and whatnot, but she explained that that's nothing serious and nothing to worry about, and you just stir it right in. And the high acid content that develops over time is going to basically push out any ability for molds to grow and whatnot. And speaking about stirring, I want to mention, she had developed this method, and I love this. She uses a chopstick, and so I do too, because it is so easy to do. And I'm just going to put one in the next. I'm not really worried about it. But you'll see there's like this little bit of let's try to move this. It's a little heavy, but I want to try to move this and show you. There's a little bit, I don't know if you can see that. There's a little bit, I have the thing is turned around, so I can't see what I'm filming. So, but in any event, that's just like the mother that's forming. You know, we hear about that in raw vinegars, the mother forming. And, you know, I just stir it right in. I've just been letting these sit out on the counter because I'm curious to see, you know, what exactly transpires with them as I leave them out to, I don't know if ferment is the right word, just to let them ferment a little more. And then I'm going to decant them. But getting back to the stir method, I lost my train of thought. Heidi tried some different ways where she used to just put it with the fruit scraps and then cover it and leave it be, and then come back to it, you know, like after a month or so. I don't remember exactly. You can watch on her channel. Her channel is fantastic. She has so many videos about this. And but then she found that you would stir it, and she would and that would actually even speed up the process and almost completely prevent any mold buildup that might be inappropriate, like in the beginning, especially when it's in the very beginning phases and working on becoming vinegar, but not quite there yet. And so that's what I did. Every day I would stir them, and sometimes twice a day, in the morning and the night. And boy, they just turned to vinegar really quickly, and that's what she had said, that she found that it really made the process go faster. So this one, that's got a little bit of a peachy color to it, this one I made with nectarine scraps, just some like little pieces that had been cut off when I cut it off the pit, and I just threw the pit with the little remains of it on. I had a few extra strawberry tops and some cantaloupe rind, and that's, can you believe it, this big thing of vinegar. This also smells luscious. I love the smell of the nectarines, and you can really smell the nectarines. That's really nice. And I think this one I might use as a hair rinse, because it's just, the smell is delightful. And that's something else I had learned from Heidi, that it makes a wonderful hair rinse. And I had used like apple cider vinegar before, and it does make your hair nice and soft. But I'm anxious to try it with these fruit vinegars, because I think, well, apple cider vinegar is a fruit vinegar, but these specific fruit vinegars, because the smell is just, it's like intoxicating. It's just delicious. Now this one, and so I think it's going to leave a lovely fragrance on my hair. This one I made, had more, not cantaloupe, I said the wrong thing, because of the color. It looks like cantaloupe. The color came from nectarines. It was honeydew. And that's the same thing here. I had extra honeydew melons, and I think I had a few little bits and scraps of some fresh apricots, but very little, I think. I can't remember. And some lemon rinds. And that's all I did. And this also, it smells great. I can't 100%, maybe it's almost lemony. That's maybe the scent that it is, and that must be from the lemon rinds. It's a little softer than the fragrance from these two. And this one I definitely think, given that it does have that lemon fragrance, I'll use for cleaning. So I just wanted to give you an update on that, because I've really been getting a lot of questions about it, but I have to give the credit to Heidi, and so I hope that you'll go watch her videos and watch her make these fruit scrap vinegars, and I think you'll really enjoy it. And I mean, this is basically free, just scraps that you might have thrown in the compost pile, or even the garbage for that matter. And here you can make these beautiful vinegars. The next thing that I want to talk about is something else that I had on Facebook. Was I had seen, oh gosh, I forget whose Facebook page it was on. If I remember, I'll put it down below. But they had shared an article. They had not done this or made a video about it or anything. They had just shared an article about preserving herbs in salt. And I thought, my gosh, that's so clever. And I have a ton of basil this time of year. And so I thought, well, let me just give it a try. If it doesn't work out, it's not the end of the world, because I just have such an abundance of it. But I laid the basil out, like they said, a little salt, more basil, a little salt. And over time, I don't know if you can tell on the camera, but the salt has actually taken on kind of a light pale green tinge to it. And the smell, oh my gosh. I used coarse sea salt, Celtic sea salt, and some people say Celtic sea salt. I used coarse ground Celtic sea salt, and just, oh my gosh, it's really good. I can't wait to try this. But this is the first time I'm just going to push this back, and I thought I'd do this with you all and take out the basil, because people have been asking me, well, how does the basil look? And I'm wondering myself how it preserves it. But boy, it looks pretty good. Look at that. And it's got the salt on it and all. But you probably just use it as is or rinse it out. But look at that. It's very soft and very pliable. And it's still got, I don't know if you can, I hope you can see that. I don't know, maybe if I don't know if this is in the camera or not, but if I put it under this light, under the under cabinet lighting, if you can see it more. But it's maintained its color relatively well. Well, I think that's going to be fun to use. I'm going to try that in some cooking over the next few days, maybe in a daily dinner bell or something like that, and I'll bring you along, and we'll see how it works out. But I wanted to show you that. Alrighty, let me put that aside. Now, the one other thing I want to talk about, and this is, if you see this in the background, I just made a video on making milk kefir or milk kefir, whatever way you say it, and so I've got that brewing there in the background. But in any event, I wanted to mention to you, I think, you know, a lot of us already know about this book, and we've talked about it in the past and whatnot, but I love this book, Nourishing Traditions by Sally Fallon. I discovered this book right around the time it was published, and I think I shared in my I think it's either my chicken bone broth or my beef bone broth video, I can't remember, that, you know, as I have shared with all of you, you know, my mother made bone broth all the time. I mean, she was raised during the Depression and learned, you know, you don't waste anything. And so we always had some kind of bone broth, chicken bone broth, you know, beef bone broth, lamb bone broth, turkey bone broth, whatever. Nothing went to waste. And as a young, and so I grew up, you know, drinking that and whatnot. And as a young woman, you know, over time, you know, you're working, you're busy, and I kind of got away from it. And then when I was married and a new mother, this book came out, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to get back to making bone broth, because that's one of the sort of pivotal parts of this book, is how, you know, bone broth can be such a staple of so many meals. My husband and I usually drink it at beef bone broth every morning at breakfast, and I think it's just wonderful. I used to have various problems with acid reflux and things like that, and I've already lost some weight. That helped tremendously. I'll share about that another day. I still have more to go, but the beef bone broth helped a lot. And you know, they always talk about it's good for your gut and this, that, and the other thing. Well, in any event, this book really got me back on that bone broth bandwagon. But the reason that I'm bringing up this book, you can see mine is well worn and all marked with recipes and stuff that I enjoy making. But what I wanted to share with you was that Sally came out recently with a new book. Now, she's got a lot of books that are sort of like what I would call sequels to this. She has one on specifically on bone broth that I definitely recommend. It's excellent. She has another one on fats. That's excellent. And then she recently came out with this one, Nourishing Diets, How Paleo, Ancestral, and Traditional Peoples Really Ate. And then now her last name is Morell. She has her new husband. But in any event, I was really anxious to get this book, because you hear so much today about so many different diets, and especially for myself and my own journey, I always wondered, you know, what was the right diet? You know, paleo, keto, gluten-free, oh my gosh, low fat, low carb, high, you know, so many things. And I found that I pretty much failed at all of those. And when I finally just settled in to trying to eat a meal that nourished me, but didn't overfill me, and then I stopped at a certain time, early evening. We tend to eat a late lunch, early dinner. That also helps, you know, to heal acid reflux and things like that, you know, for myself specifically. So that's kind of what I settled in on, and I found I started to lose weight. And I wasn't really counting carbs, I wasn't counting fat, I wasn't counting protein. I was just following, you know, what my body told me that it felt it needed. And that wound up settling in at around about 40% carbohydrates and about 40% fats, good fats, you know, butter. I use butter and lard. Now, I know those of you who don't follow the traditional foods movement are going to be going, lard, is she kidding? You know? But you have to read Nourishing Traditions to understand where I'm coming from. But, you know, some butter, lard, beef tallow, things like that. And of course, you know, good oils as well, like olive oil. And being of Italian ancestry, I don't think I could ever not eat olive oil. And so I say, and then about 40% carbohydrates, 40% fats, and then 20% protein. And that really worked for me, and has worked for me. And I feel good, and I'm losing weight. I've actually lost, I mean, I know you're going to say, oh my gosh, Mary, it looks like you still have quite a bit to go. But I've lost about 30 pounds, and my blood pressure is doing good. My blood work is doing great. You know, I feel in good health, and I'm very happy about that. My husband and I have also added exercise to our daily routines, although he's tall and thin, doesn't have to worry like me, short and chubby. But he and I have a video, and we put in, and it's, you know, you're walking in place and doing different things. It's like aerobics, but just easy going. And we walk the dog, albeit not this time of year. It's July in Central Texas, and I think it's 105 today, so we're not walking outside. But, and now our next step is to like add a little bit of strength training, and I think that'll be good. I'm in my 60s, and I don't want to lose muscle, you know, and they always say, I have a friend who gave me a book once, and it had a great saying that said something to the effect of, strong women stay young, and I want to stay young, so that's that. But anyways, I'm rambling. Let me get on to why I liked this book. Was I really wanted to know what was the right way to eat based on how our ancestors eat. And I'm not talking about cave people, but I know how my mother ate, I know how my grandmother ate, and I know how my great-grandmother ate. And I'm guessing that for the most part, my ancestors, maybe over the last 500 years, pretty much ate the way that they ate, for the most part. And basically, that's what this book comes down to, saying that yes, based on where people lived, that different traditional cultures did eat differently. Some traditional cultures may have had anywhere from 20, I think she says 30%, I'll have to check, but maybe as low as 30% fat in their diet, and others had as high as like 80% fat in their diet, really depending on where they lived and what their dietary needs were and what was available to them. And they did well on that. And she talks about how it's important to know, as best you can, you know, what your ancestral lineage may be, and that may give you insights into what is the best way for you to eat and what agrees with you. And that some people, she says, do very well on a good paleo diet that's, you know, high in fat, lower in carbs, I guess moderate protein. And other people don't do well on that. Other people do well with more carbohydrates and equal amounts of fat and maybe less protein or more. But what was so fascinating is that it's not a one-size-fits-all. You really need to learn and know what works best for your body, to listen to your body, try to get some indication of what your ancestors may have eaten. Look to your parents. What did they eat and how did they fare? My parents did have a very traditional diet. My mother raised us on a traditional diet, and my father passed away 2 years ago, but he was quite up in years. My mother is still alive. She's 93. She looks fabulous. I think for any of you who know me well and have seen the pictures that I've posted of her, you know, on Facebook and Instagram, she has less wrinkles than me. It's amazing. And my grandmother lived to be very old, and so did my great-grandmother. So that was just very reassuring. But I recommend that you read this. I think it's really interesting. If you've struggled at all with what is the right way to eat, and what trying to make sense of all these different diets and how they might fit in to your particular life and your lifestyle and your ancestral ties. So I definitely recommend that. Forgive me for going on and on about it, but I really enjoy her books. And, you know, as you may know, I believe she was the founder of the Weston A. Price Foundation, and Dr. Price was a dentist who traveled around the world and studied traditional cultures, and he found people who ate traditional diets, you know, real fat, you know, real carbohydrates, real protein, like, you know, real food, fared much better in terms of their teeth than people who ate more processed foods. And he lived, I think, in the 1920s, 30s, somewhere around there, when sugar was starting to make more of a presence in food and whatnot. And so he found that these people who ate traditional diets and who ate seasonally, and I think we can learn a lot from that too, that they ate the butter from the they ate the butter that was made from the milk from the cows who grazed on pasture in the spring. And then that was the best butter, because as we know now, it's cows that eat grass produce milk and then butter that's very high in omega-3, similar to salmon, which we hear omega-3, what a good fat that is for your body, for your brain, everything. And he talks about in his book, Nutrition, and I forget the name of his book, but he talks all about how this butter that, like in Switzerland, they would graze the cows in the spring, milk them, and make this butter. And it was so yellow, so rich in omega-3s. And that was the butter that would be fed to the men who would go on to become the Swiss guards, who guarded and would be sent to Rome and guard the Vatican. So, and they were big, healthy, you know, strong men. So it's very interesting. But getting back to the Weston A. Price Foundation, so I find their website very fascinating. I find Sally fascinating, and I find her books fascinating. But I just want to say one word about all of that. And this is why I have been making my Mastering the Basics series on my YouTube channel, is because and mastering the basics of traditional foods that are nutrient dense, but using simple ingredients, because the only thing that I am a little concerned sometimes with the traditional foods movement is that it can be very expensive. A pasture chicken can be $20, $25 versus a grocery store chicken. And I don't want people to become disheartened if the $20 or $25 chicken is out of their budget. You know, I say it's okay to buy a chicken at the grocery store and roast it up and make bone broth, because in the long run, I think that's better than eating something at a fast food restaurant. And not to mention that you're making it and sitting down, hopefully not eating at the counter, and enjoying it at the table, hopefully with friends or family, and you're serving it with love. I think that just has so much to do with good health, so much to do with good health. And that's why I've been wanting to do this Mastering the Basics series, to show people that you can make these things and you don't need the perfect chicken, you don't need the perfect raw milk if you can't get it, or you can't legally buy it in your state, or you just can't afford it. Sometimes raw milk is very expensive. And so that's really just been my only concern with the traditional foods movement. I don't want people to get discouraged and then just drive through the fast food restaurant and get something to go. But to know that food that you can find at the grocery store is okay. And even if you can't buy organic, you know, you can wash fruits and vegetables with vinegar and baking soda and, you know, things like that. Vinegar, we got plenty of it now, and so that is just that's very important to me, and it's very near and dear to my heart, to wanting to encourage people to eat real food. And even if it's not organic, even if it's not pasture raised, that's okay. If you can get it, fantastic, it's the best. But if you can't, that's all right. You start, I love, there's a wonderful lady, her name is Lori, and I read on her site, and I don't know if this is her original words, you probably have heard this, and it's probably a famous saying, but grow where you're planted. And that, I think, is the best advice that I have ever heard. Grow where you're planted. Just start wherever you can, and don't obsess about things, because don't put strain on your food budget, don't put strain on yourself, don't put strain on your family and friends, where you're so stressed about that the chicken wasn't perfect or whatever the case may be. Cook a chicken wherever you get it from, serve it with love, and I think in the long run, everyone's going to be a lot happier and healthier than just eating fast food. So sorry, that's my rant. In any event, I want to thank you so much for joining me here. I hope you enjoyed this little bit of news from the nest. I hope to do some more, and I definitely will, because I want to show you the new apron that I just got today from Heidi. It's gorgeous. I'm not going to tell you about it until I show you, because the fabric, I had asked her if she had fabric that was with a certain description that I gave her, so and she did have it, and I'm anxious to wear it and to show it to you, but I want to surprise you all. So be sure to go check out her website, Rain Country Homestead. And I think she has a website, but that's her YouTube channel. And she just has an amazing plethora of videos on making vinegar, or medicinal, talking about medicinal herbs, garage sale finds, self-sufficiency, raising chickens, I mean, all kinds of things. Definitely, it's wonderful. And be sure to check out her Etsy shop. As I said, I'll link to it below, but I think it's by the same name, Rain Country Homestead. And not only does she have a lot of lovely products that she makes, aprons and skirts. Oh, and I ordered a skirt from her too, and I got that today. And I'll definitely share that with you. And her husband, Patrick, makes a lot of wonderful things. And I'll show you that what I bought in a future video that was handmade by him. But I won't tell you what it is, I'll surprise you. It's really lovely. And we'll do a recipe with it. That'll be fun. Alrighty, well, that's all for today. And I want to thank you so much for joining me. I really enjoyed having you here in my kitchen with me. And I look forward to having you next time right here in my Texas Hill Country kitchen. And hopefully it won't be 105. Love and God bless. Bye-bye.